Talk. Talk. Talk to me Tuesday. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Mari B. And today we're going to have an exciting show. Look, we haven't seen each other for 2 weeks already. It's been a minute since we've been on the show. But this is a mad, crazy show. But look, why? Because it's still March and we're still in March Madness. So let the madness continue. Look, we are super happy and super honored to have the managing partner of D. Miller & Associates on our show today, Rameshra Gutthaman. Welcome.
Hi, Mari. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, we did this a couple weeks ago, right? Before. Mm-hmm.
I'm always excited to have you. And I know our viewers are too, because look, not only are you an attorney, you are a sports enthusiast and you know about your sports. You love it. You're passionate. And it's always a good talk when we talk about everything sports.
Everything sports, of course. And what a better time than in March with everything that's going on, beautiful weather, it's spring. So yeah, It's been exciting.
Yes, you nailed it. And look, March Madness, what does that mean for all those sports fanatics is March Madness. It's a huge tournament. But we're going to kind of dive in deep into that today in today's show. We're really going to talk about that. But look, I want to ask you, are you ready to talk about basketball? This is like your sport, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. I enjoy basketball. Obviously my fandom is primarily focused more on the pro level. A lot of that having to do with I never had the big university experience or college experience. I went to kind of more smaller schools. So that being said, who doesn't love the tournament, though?
Doesn't love it. Exactly. Great question that you just asked. So all of you guys tune in. I know you guys are all also excited and you guys are on this show for multiple reasons. Now, that's not the only thing to be excited for. The end of the show, we're also going to announce what we like to do at the end of the month. Can you believe it? It's already the 29th of March, which is crazy. So you guys know what that means. We pick a winner for our heroic behavior that these attorneys love to give something to just put a smile on someone's face and just be able to help in every which way that they can. So we'll be announcing that a little later. You guys have to stay tuned, so don't go anywhere. But look, like you said, Attorney Rameshra Gutthaman is basketball. We love it. So I want to mention we have some awesome games that just passed. Some games that were like had everyone at the edge of their seats with their eyes wide open, like could not believe it. So look, let's go ahead and dive right in. For those of them that are watching right now and probably either don't know or are more of the professional type of sports person, can you explain to us what March Madness is in detail for those that are watching here for the first time?
So typically each kind of sports league, whether it be basketball, baseball, whatever, typically they run a season, right, where you play your regular season and then they have some sort of postseason or extra, tournament whereby they, name the champion. Okay. And it's a fair and equitable way. Well, what college basketball did in creating March Madness is in football, if you take it a similar approach, if you look, they have the different bowl games for the different conferences, and now they've got this unified kind of playoff. Well, what basketball did was they took each of the conferences, they had their own tournament, and then they created this huge tournament that included everybody. And this thing has kind of taken a life of its own. And one thing you should know, interesting since this is a legal show, the Final Four is actually trademarked. You are not allowed, no other sports league can advertise the Final Four, because if you think about it, college basketball is the only sport that celebrates getting to the semifinals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? If you get to the Final Four, that was, you've had a very successful season. Whereas in every other sport, if you get to the semis, you almost got there.
You still don't make it, but
you still don't make it, but yeah, you almost got there.
And I love that you're bringing the legal side of things, because a lot of us may not know that. And just like, I don't know if there's any games at a bar, they put the logo Final Four, but that could probably get some companies in trouble, and we can't just loosely do that, right? Is that how
Right. Yeah. There's actually two things. One is the Final Four, and two is Super Bowl. So if you've noticed, like anytime a business or a restaurant or some sort of facility will use the Final Four, it'll either use officially branded merchandise or logo, which obviously they pay for and get, or you could do it like they do for the Super Bowl, which you're not allowed to use that term, and you can advertise for the big game or Sunday's big game, right? So those are the two were kind of just off the top that I know, kind of legal issue with the sports and the naming. But other than that, it's been super exciting. I was a little bit bummed about Houston. I really wanted U of H.
I know. We're going to talk about that because I know you got all the details there. And look, a lot of people, I have the brackets right here in front of me, just so that I can follow and do the show. But a lot of people thought a lot of things would go a little bit different. But I want to ask you, Ramesh, look, I know you've been to a lot of pro games. I know you love to attend. You are a season ticket holder for the Houston Rockets and, the Texans and others. But have you been to an NCAA tournament game?
Funny thing is, I actually have. I've been a couple of times. So when I was in, it was like my second or third year in law school, the first couple rounds were in St. Louis. So we went to that. And the interesting thing about it is, it was the first time I had ever gone to a game, and it was 4 games in a row. There were 2 games, and then they took a break, and then another 2 games because it was the first round of the tournament.
Yeah.
And it being an NCAA event, there was no beer for all 4 of those games.
Long games, right?
Long games. And then whenever it was a while ago, I want to say it was like maybe 13, 14, 15 years ago, whenever the regionals were in San Antonio, when Ohio State was there, I made the trip up to San Antonio and met a couple of buddies. And that was the year it was Greg Oden and Mike Conley and all those guys. Yeah. So
wow, that's awesome. I know I got to go to some too, and UT used to live in Austin. So look, let's talk about that. The atmosphere is high energy. I don't know if you guys feel my energy, but I'm excited just because I know what it's like at these games and being there, the nerves, the excitement, the crazy feeling. I mean, the butterflies in their stomach, they've kind of worked their whole career to get here.
And it's one and done. If you lose, you're out.
You're out of there. Yeah.
So you're out. So that's the other big issue.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of forced to have that perfect, what is it called? Score and winning streak, because if you lose, there is no second chance. You're out of there. So
you're out.
Athletes lay it on the line, men's and women. So that's
you have to win 4 games for men to get to the Final Four, 6 to win the title, right?
There you go. There you go. And then you know what? They also host the tournaments for all divisions in different areas. It's not just one centralized, like the Super Bowl, the NBA All-Stars in one place. This is everywhere, multiple locations. So you do have an opportunity to either drive, or if it's in your local town, you can go to some of these games, and they're pretty cool and exciting. Yeah,
and pretty much you do know, I think they tell you in advance, right, where the actual Final Four will be. So if your team makes it, you can go to the Final Four. Here's a little ticket tidbit for anybody who is going to the Final Four. If you are going to the Final Four and you're going on Saturday night, if you want to stay for the game Monday, for the championship game, just hit up the people who lost one of the semifinal games, because when you buy tickets for the Final Four, you get your game ticket plus you get the final. They're sold in packages. So people whose schools, who they've traveled, if they lose Saturday night, they have Monday night game tickets that they're typically going to sell. And that's usually the best way to get your ticket.
Wow. That's a good little nugget. I'm going to grab that and put it in my back pocket, because that is awesome. Like, I would have never thought of that. So I think that's great for those that are watching. You never know. You could get tickets to that last game if you So,
because look, Duke, North Carolina are going to be playing. One of those fan bases is going to be going home. with game tickets for Monday night. So
yeah, exactly. So kind of keep your enemies close to you, right? Is that what they say? Because you may get some tickets. You
may get some tickets. That's right.
So look, today we'll be speaking just in reference to D1 men's and women's tournament. There are other divisions that go to the tournament, but we're going to start off by talking about the women's game. Now, huge congrats to all who had the opportunity to play in the tournament. I think this is great. Look, this is Women's Month too. March is Women's Month. I think this women's empowerment, it's huge, right? To have a chance to be in the tournament as well, like men, and then to be also at the limelight like men, I think that's a huge accomplishment for our women. I know they're fighting for that in WNBA as well. So I think that's huge. And we want to support our women to kind of, go out there and showcase what they got. So Ramesh, I want to ask you, last year was very controversial for the women's tournament, March Madness, on where they were at, how they were treated. But I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the showcasing and the viewership of the women's basketball this year?
That's a really interesting question. The one thing I will tell you is you can notice that every year the women's tournament continues to gain prominence. It continues to gain viewership. It continues to get bigger and bigger. And there are, some very key telling tidbits that kind of lend to this. One, they're on primetime TV. They're on the big networks. They're not shuffled. The women's games are not shuffled off to, TBS and FS2 and some of that. And they're on ABC. They're on ESPN. It's on ESPN2. So that tells me a lot. And here's the other thing that makes you completely know that the women's game is expanding. They keep adding teams to the tournament. If the tournament wasn't successful in making money, they wouldn't be adding teams.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see how far the women's game has gone. And to put a point on it, I will say this: the NBA has done a really good job of sticking with the WNBA and promoting it and making that league last. So it's good. It's good. It's nice to see women's athletics also pick up, especially in basketball. There's a huge following.
I agree with you. We do. Basketball's huge. I know, we want to be equal in gender as well. We strongly believe in everyone having an opportunity, especially at this law firm. You guys do a great job. So we support our women. We support all types of movements here because we are also diverse in our law firm. And it's, representing one of our own that we have in our own family. So we definitely root for that as well. Now, question for you, Ramesh, and I want you to answer women's and men's. I know we're going to start with, but what team are you rooting for? Now, that might be a different question, right? What team was I rooting for at the beginning of the bracket, or who am I rooting for now, right? Now that things have kind of changed, feel free to let me know. But yeah, who are you going for?
So in the men's, there's always an interesting thing because when the tournament starts, everybody always wants the underdogs, right? You want the underdogs. You want like St. Peter's, and you want some of these smaller schools to win and go and get through. But the interesting thing happens is that when it gets to the Final Four, I don't want to see these teams like, St. Peter's and St. Bon. Like, I want to see the big teams. And if you look at it this year, the Final Four is completely 4 blue blood college basketball schools. It is Duke, Carolina, Kansas, and Villanova. All of them with storied basketball history, storied programs. All of them have national titles. They've all won this before. And one thing I'll promise you is the viewership is going to be larger for this than it would have been had you had, a Cinderella run or anything like that. As for me, I mean, who did I want? Like I said, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I was kind of pulling for U of H just because for the H. Yes. Yeah, Houston strong. But then after that, I really wanted St. Peter's to beat North Carolina. But that didn't happen. So, I think both games are going to be good on Saturday. And as always, the championship game should be good.
Yeah, for sure. And I look for men's, I had Gonzaga. I'm just not gonna lie. But looking at the final four, it's between either Duke or North Carolina for me. Now, knowing what I know, I keep referencing the brackets because there's just a lot of data on here. And then on women's, of course, I went for UT. At first, I was going for Baylor as well, but they kind of went out. So I just changed my mind to UT. And they just lost the other day on 2 days ago. So I would probably say South Carolina if I had to just put a game on there, but this is going to be interesting. Final four for both. I'm going to watch both because I think supporting our teams and our colleges is great. It's huge for them. So now I know you keep seeing me, Ramesh, picking up the brackets. Did you by any chance make a bracket yourself?
I didn't this year. This was the first time, and it's been a while since I have. I've been following it, but yeah, no, we had a lot going on. It was tough for me to get a bracket in. But I do want to back up real quick. One of the things, looking at the Final Four, this is Coach K's last Final Four.
I heard,
and he made his 13th. 13 Final Fours. I mean, the guy is an institution. I don't know how they're going to replace him. The other thing that's amazing about Coach K is that he not only was able to coach over different eras and different, different types of different players and different rules. He's been successful at however the game has been structured, because like when we were in high school and growing up, like the college guys, the good teams, they had players that stayed together. They were juniors, they were seniors, then they went to the NBA. Well, that has shifted, right? Now it's all one and done. So your best players are your freshmen, and then they're gone because they're gone to the NBA, right? Because you have to do the 1 year. Mm-hmm. Well, that changes the recruiting, right? Because now you're not building. And, the point I'm trying to make is he's been successful with whatever the era, whatever the time has thrown at him. He's understood that he's had to change and evolve and, evolve his way of coaching, his way of recruiting in order to continuously be successful. And if they win, I think if they win this upcoming Monday, it'll be his 6th title. And what a way to go out.
What a way to go out. And let me ask you this, because I don't know this information. Is there a reason why he's retiring? Is it because he's just literally done, or is there another endeavor that he's about to pursue?
He's a lot older and he's been coaching there for a long time, I think since 86 or so. So, I'm sure if there is something else, I don't know. All I do know is that he's leaving the bench after this year from Duke.
And I can't help but to ask that because look, Ramesh, a lot of people throw that R word around retirement, and then 2 months later they're like, "Just kidding, we're back from retirement." So
not even 2 months. Tried like 2 days. Yeah.
We're not going to bring up that topic. I know a lot of people that are watching are probably really hurt. There's a lot that was going around, but look. We're going to keep it basketball today. Look,
one quick question on the retirement, though. I have to share the story. The guy who bought Tom Brady's last touchdown pass? He bought it from an auction for $518,000. And then literally an hour and a half later, Tom Brady unretired.
Yeah. I saw that going around. Like, could you imagine how he feels thinking he got, this deal on his last retirement to come to find out
that ball isn't worth anything. Down. Yeah, that ball isn't worth anything.
yeah, that hurts. Look, we, you and your firm did something with the employees there and having brackets. I did participate. I have mine. You see a lot of X's on here because mine was busted after some of these games we're going to talk about, including Gonzaga and Texas for women. So, some of our employees that we have, their brackets are still alive, right? Wow. Which is great that we have a good handful. And sometimes like with how it went this year, a lot of people didn't think it was going to go this year. So that's great. So just for you guys that are watching, as you guys know, the tournament started March 16 and 17 for the play-in games. Once that those play-in games were done, once the brackets were complete, hey, it's game time. And it was rocking and rolling. So we're going to talk a little bit about women's first. We're going to focus on women's. Then we're going to move to, men's. But I want to kind of bring up on the women's. You had the number 1 seed, South Carolina, was not playing around on their first round, literally not playing around. And they won that game with a 50+ point win and then won by 30 to get into the Final Four recently. What are your thoughts about that game? If you
dominating, just a dominating performance. Just, sometimes in the women's games, when you have good coached teams, you can see an excellent run of dominance. Like, if you just go back to the UConn or Baylor or, a couple of those teams. Look, South Carolina's been a good program for a while. So is so the ones that we just mentioned, UT, Baylor. So these programs are big. I mean, UConn, when it comes to women's basketball, I tend to think of UConn and Tennessee just because they were the big powerhouses when I was growing up. But yeah. And the game has gotten so much better too. It's gotten a lot faster. So
yeah, a lot faster too, like you said, for women. Another good one that you'll like to appreciate it because this is where you're kind of from too. Number 1 seed Louisville showing out and continuing their run through the tournament. They won last night by 12 against Michigan, which is also great where they stand right now. Great game. Competitive. Like these games are super competitive. So, yep, they're going to be playing South Carolina on April 1st. It's not a joke. It's not an April Fools. It's real at 7 p.m. on ESPN. Yeah. So, and another thing, just kind of going a little bit on the negative side. So it was a huge upset for Creighton winning over the number 2 seed Iowa, 64-62. When I tell you these are close games,
I mean, yeah.
Overtime, double overtime, like we're seeing it. That was a close game. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that one.
Well, anytime that the games are back and forth, you're gonna tune in. So I just like when the games get really close and they get really tight. That, like I said, it's a sudden death scenario because if you lose, you're out, and you just see some of the best ball being played, right? And even like at that level, watching them execute the fundamentals at that time in the game, like it just shows you the difference. And what kind of athletes they are. But yeah, anytime there's an overtime game or something like that, count me in.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to talk about this last one. There's a lot of highlights. Look, we're talking about so many teams and games, but number 10, South Dakota with huge win over number 2, Baylor. I literally thought Baylor had this one for the women's side and also on the men's, but we're not there yet. But the Baylor women's, I was so upset.
Yeah, no, and I think that there was a lot of people around this part of the country that were upset too. I mean, I forget her name, Kim Mulkey, I think, right? As the coach of Baylor, she's had quite the winning tradition. I know she's been a little bit outspoken on masks and stuff like that, but we won't go there. And then, but yeah, I mean, listen, she's led a good program. They've been a good program. I was shocked to see them get taken out early. It's not usually their pedigree to do that.
Yeah, literally one of my biggest disappointments on my bracket because I had them going all the way to Final Four. But last one, number 2, UConn making another huge run in the tournament with some great wins and won last night in double overtime over NC State.
UConn just continues to win and win and win and win.
Yes.
They don't rebuild, they just reload.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. I might take your line, but yes, super true. Look, I just want to say congratulations to these women, these ladies that are putting it all on the court and going out there and playing ball, like no matter what, playing ball.
And getting to experience the tournament, especially after the pandemic. So I'm really happy that they get to fulfill that experience and that part of their, of their college,
Yeah, for sure. Look, and I have some comments. I have Giselle saying, I've been to the women's Final Four when it was in Dallas. It was awesome. And I know Giselle also played in the tournament when she played basketball. So I also want to ask any of you viewers out there played in this March Madness tournament. It doesn't matter what round, just to get there is an experience for sure. Yeah. And then another one, Rebecca saying, excuse my ignorance, but what is a bracket? So Ramesh, I'm going to give that one to you. explain in a little bit. No worries, Rebecca. We're here to kind of help our community out so that they could be involved too. And you know what? The more we get people to support our teams, our college and our NBA, the better, because that's one more viewer that they're going to get. So Ramesh, if you want to explain a little bit on what is a bracket, as probably I don't know if it's complicated for you, but as simple as possible if you can.
Yeah, no problem. Listen, the way whenever you are organizing and putting together a schedule for teams in a tournament, what they'll do is they'll put it in a method where they line them up, and they call this method a bracket. So you have your two teams, and then the winner will move on. And then what you do is you have your two teams, and they put them in brackets, and then the winner, each of the winners create a new bracket. So it's just a logistical way for people to see how the tournament's progressing or how your team is progressing in a visual format.
Yeah. And I know we have a bracket behind us right now that you can kind of see, but also if you're watching, this is kind of what it looks like. And you see they're little brackets, right? And so the winner will go to the next line. So that's a good way. We're going to put the links on the comments so you can take a look at what a live bracket looks like. And you're going to see the piece of paper I just kind of held up. So that way you can kind of get an idea how we stay organized on our winners is basically what it is in the college world. So thank you for that, Ramesh, for explaining. So look, some of these games we're talking about cause a lot of brackets, including mine, to bust. I'm just gonna be honest. Mine busted like men and women. So Ramesh, in the past, I don't know how you've done with your brackets or even if any of your family members are doing it, but how has that looked in your brackets, especially when it comes to like elite, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four? Have you been successful? You're pretty good at this game, or have you also had busted brackets?
Oh yeah, I've been all over the board. The best part, and I think the most fun part always of the tournament is when you have that one upset that kind of nobody saw coming, because then when the team that you have going far loses, it totally busts your bracket, right? Because now all of your selections are pretty much incorrect, but that's what's the fun about it, right? I mean, otherwise, if you just took your bracket and you just picked it versus the seeds and always the better team won, it wouldn't necessarily be fun, right? Yeah. So I've actually won a couple of times before doing a bracket challenge, but the majority of the time,
Yeah, look, I will say there's some times where I got to a part of my bracket, I was like, I don't know who to win. And I did pick with the better, record of the year. But just to be honest, and maybe Ramesh, you could speak a little bit more, the record doesn't even matter because they might be in a different division. Their strengths might be not a strength when they play a certain team in a different division. So it really doesn't matter what seed they come in and where they place because it's a whole new game.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because when you look and you see, hey, this team's 22-7 and this team's 23-5. Well, we don't know who they played to get those wins or who those losses, So, and it's hard to match those types of schedules, right? Yes. Now, you can match common opponents and all of that. And I know that they have all of those kind of things, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that detail. But look, I want you guys, I know they're loading up the brackets here in the comment section, so you guys can see who the Sweet 16 teams were for women. This was UConn's 28th straight Sweet 16 appearance. That goes along with your comment, Ramesh, that you said earlier. There it goes. The proof is in the pudding. Elite 8, we do have a good amount of teams: South Carolina, Creighton, Louisville, Michigan, Stanford, Texas, NC State, and UConn. Now, Ramesh, I need to ask you, because I know you're a busy guy, being an attorney. It's okay if you haven't, but did you watch any of these games in the Elite 8 by any chance?
In the men's?
Women's,
no.
No. Okay, so that's fine, because I know I watched a few and a few I did not. But
I didn't watch any of the men's either, though. I watched that later. I watched the highlights. When I said I didn't watch live. I went and checked it out.
Disclaimer, isn't that your favorite show, ESPN, where they give you the highlights?
Just the highlights.
You got that guy that watches it for hours, but it's really saying the same thing over and over.
Those days are gone. I don't do that anymore. Those days are gone, but yes.
Awesome. Well, look, for those of you guys that watched, number 1, Stanford beat number 2, Texas on Sunday. I already talked about that. Let's not go there because I will shed a tear. 59-50. And then number 1, South Carolina smashed number 10, Creighton's Cinderella run in an 80-50 win on Sunday. So they did reach the Final Four. South Carolina won the last national title in 2017. Like you said, Ramesh, these teams have titles behind them. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of goes this year. And look, I want you to talk about, Ramesh, what do they mean in the sports lingo when they talk about the Cinderella story?
Well, typically when they love to use that moniker whenever you have a perfect example, St. Peter's this year, right? They were a 15th seed. They made it all the way through to the Elite Eight, 1 game away from the Final Four. They call that a Cinderella team because they weren't supposed to even win that first game. And now they've won a couple of games in a row. So they're calling it, it's like the unlikely girl at the ball, right? So that's why they call it the Cinderella story.
I see. So, talking about on the women's side, Creighton's run in the tournament is a Cinderella story, exactly what you described. A number 10 seed to make it to the Elite Eight, which is something amazing for them. So kudos to them just to get it here. It's their first Elite Eight appearance in their school history. So that's a huge accomplishment for them. Even though they didn't win, they're coming back to their school and they've won because they've got there, right?
Yeah, that was a great, amazing run. Absolutely.
Yes. So Final Four, we're almost done on the women's side. South Carolina, Louisville, Stanford, and UConn. That's also great games. UConn marked its 14th straight Final Four bid by outlasting the number 1 NC State 91-87 in a wild double overtime game. First of all, double overtime for anyone that is part of the game, whether you're the athlete, the coach, the band members, the dancers, 1 overtime and 2, it's exhausting. And you literally have to tell yourself, okay, another overtime. And you got to push it through. I know what that feels like. Because double overtimes hurt to the point where you're like, okay, give it all you got. So for same thing for the athletes, right? You got to push it. So I think that's awesome. So look, with the details in the women's tournament and some great basketball, Ramesh, I have to ask you, I just kind of named the Final Four, South Carolina, Louisville, Stanford, and UConn. What are your thoughts on the national championship? Who do you think will be playing in it, and who do you think will win?
UConn.
You're going to go for UConn. Yeah. I mean, they have a good record. I did say South Carolina, so I'm going to stick to South Carolina, but UConn is another one for me. So we're going to leave it at that. All right. So let's switch to men a little bit. And now some of these games were crazy. Again, shockers. I was in front of the TV are you serious? Are y'all serious? But look, we're not out there playing, so we don't know how that feels. But as soon as the playing games were in, they were truly madness. They call this March Madness for a reason, guys. So the opening day of first round of 2022 men's basketball tournament saw huge upsets. Ramesh, do you remember this? First round. Mm-hmm. Everyone was like, seriously?
St. Peter's.
Busted. So, that's what happened with me on the first round. So, look, I want to kind of talk about, especially for Rebecca, who's never done a bracket. Mm-hmm. What is your method, Ramesh? I would like to know for next year to determine who wins. Do you need to know everything about basketball?
No. You know what I've realized with these tournaments is the more you know about it, the less well you do. So usually what I'll do is pick seeds, and then somewhere around there, I try to pick some upsets and just pick some lower seeds. It's really impossible to have an informed opinion on 64 to 68 teams, even if you watch them. So, but typically I'll use the seedings, and then just, whatever historical bias I have. And then if I have to guess, I guess.
Literally, it's like you can't forecast this at all. And this year has been proven that. Look, I want to talk about Arkansas with the huge upset against Gonzaga. Talk about bracket buster.
And I felt bad for Gonzaga because, like, the year before, they were undefeated all the way and lost in the final. And then, could have gone through the whole season. And now this year, they don't even make it back. So it tells you how tough it is.
Yeah, exactly. I think. And also, I mean, there's a lot of components there. It's a mental game too. Like, it's a mental game. Don't think just because you've been there, you're going to get there again, because there's somebody else out there that's even more hungry, and don't let it, bust your bubble, literally, like they busted our bracket. So
like they busted our brackets.
And, look, you brought it up, St. Peter's, another Cinderella story. They made it to the Elite Eight, but I will tell you, I didn't have them at all in my bracket. So I was like, it was a shocker for me. What was your thoughts about this one? Was it a shock for you? Or
yeah, I was completely shocked. I had never really knew anything about them. And, they beat some big teams on the way there. And then when they faced North Carolina, the magic ran out.
Yeah, game over. But look, they made it pretty far. So congratulations to them.
Absolutely.
Sorry, keep dancing. I think that's awesome. Another huge upset for us, because we are from H-Town, is Houston with, first of all, the win over Arizona. Like, all our H-Town people were like, let's go.
Oh, yeah. One win away from the Final Four.
And then they lost against Villanova on the, Elite Eight. So
they just didn't shoot well. If they, I did watch a part of that game, and they couldn't buy a basket. That they were having a tough time there. The other thing with Houston in that game was they were trailing the entire game, and finally, whenever they would cut it to like 4 or 2, Villanova would immediately make it 6 or 7 again, and like they just couldn't get over the hump. Yeah, so it was a nice run. I think Coach Sampson's done a great job with Houston, and they'll definitely be back.
Yeah, they will be back. Another Texas team, Duke, ended Texas Tech's run as they were in search for another national championship appearance under new head coach Mark Adams. What are your thoughts about this game, either whether it's Texas Tech or the coach, Mark Adams? Any thoughts on that?
No, I feel bad for the Red Raiders. I know that they had a good team. I know that they were really gearing up for another shot at it this year. They had a great run last year. So,
Yeah.
They'll be back. It's amazing though. All our Texas schools are pretty good, huh? Texas Tech, Baylor. I mean,
I was about to say that, like, at this point, our Texans, like, we support the Texas teams. You have UT, Baylor, Texas Tech, U of H, like that's something to be proud of, just being from Texas. Like, it doesn't matter if you like the team or not, like the fact that we're there and we have a presence. Let's go, Texas.
Yes, let's go.
Yes. So, the Elite Eight was pretty awesome. What are your thoughts about the program under Coach Kelvin Sampson?
I think he's done an amazing job. Houston was irrelevant for 30-something years, and now we're back. That program hadn't had any winning since Olajuwon and Drexler, and now they're winning again. So it's really nice to see. Anything that's good for the city I'm always down with.
Yeah. And look, another thing is, this tournament has done a great look. It's just panned out itself. It's a huge matchup when it comes to these huge programs, with wins over number 2 seed Kentucky, number 7 seed Murray State, number 3 seed Purdue, to stay in the tourney. Like, I think that's great. What are your thoughts about some of these matchups?
I think they do a pretty good job of kind of randomizing the matchups and putting them, there's some formula as they have for how they, kind of set out the brackets. But, look, we ended up with Duke and Carolina and Kansas and Villanova, so I think that they did a pretty good job. So
They did, yeah. And I know we mentioned a little bit about the St. Peter's Cinderella story, but I want to get your thoughts on the coach, Holloway. What are your thoughts there?
The St. Peter's coach, I think he's done a great job. What I would say to this is, I hope he stays there, because typically these college coaches, when they do well at these smaller schools, they use these opportunities to kind of parlay it or bounce into a bigger opportunity. I really do hope that they stay and build something there, though, because this was kind of cool.
Yeah, and a fun fact, he actually played at Seton Hall, helped guide them to the Sweet 16 in 2000. He was teammates with Kobe Bryant for the McDonald's All-American game in 1996. So he has some good credentials there.
Yeah, he can coach. Yeah, he can coach.
Yeah, many more that we probably are not mentioning, so don't want to discredit that. So we do have another comment. This is Giselle saying Big 12 with exclamation marks. Exactly. So look, let's talk about the Final Four. You mentioned it. Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and Kansas. I say it very Latin, Villanova, but that's not how you say it. But what were some teams you had having a good run in the tourney that ended up losing to these
I would say
powerhouses?
Kentucky. Yeah, I would say Kentucky. Kentucky was probably the one I was kind of surprised to see not there. UConn on the men's is another one. Potentially Michigan, but I knew Michigan had some issues or whatever. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, if you look at it, these are, like I said, blue blood blue blood universities that have like long, significant college basketball storied traditions. So, in terms of hype, you couldn't have gotten, 4 better teams.
Yeah, I agree with you on Kentucky. That was one of the hotter teams in the nation heading into the tournament. And Gonzaga again was number 1 overall seed. So I agree with that opinion. So now I gotta ask you, there's a lot of victories here. There's a lot of great coaches. There's a lot of great players, right? Who do you think is going to win on the men's side? The $1 million question.
I'm going to go with Duke.
Let's
do it. Let's send Coach K off the right way.
Yeah, so let's see who's going to win it. They're down to the last final days. What is that? This weekend that we're going to see some of these games.
Yeah, Saturday is the Final Four. Monday is the final.
Yeah, that you're probably right on that. Yep, April 2nd for the men's on the Final Four. And I believe for the women's over here, it's April 1st. It's not April Fool's joke for sure, on the women. So you guys need to just stay tuned on that. We probably will just chat a little bit about it on our next show, but this is going to be a good one, a good run as well. So look, speaking of winning.
There we go.
Yeah, we also do something for you guys that are watching to also win. We do something called the Heroic Behavior Winner, and it's every month. We give a giveaway. You know what? This is the attorneys right here. You're looking at him. Ramesh Guthaman came up with this, what was it, 3 years ago? We've been doing it every single month. So, spring is here. I don't know if you guys enjoyed the beautiful weekend with beautiful weather, people at the pool, at the beaches. Spring is here. And what we're giving away is a spring garden kit for the lucky winner. So, Ramesh, look, we've talked enough basketball, and now it's to give our giveaway. I think it's time. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a look at who's the winner. Every month, all you got to do is like, share, and tag. Yay, congratulations. The gift goes to Hope Seda or Seda, however you pronounce it, but congratulations to you. Please check your direct messages to claim your prize. And I want to thank everyone who participated. Don't worry if you're watching right now and saying, I never win. We're doing it again next month, so don't worry. Just go ahead and do the 4 little things that you saw on the video. It's super easy, and all it takes is one little finger. So make sure that you guys stay tuned on our social media for next month's giveaway. Now, Ramesh, I want to always ask you, first of all, I'm beyond thankful that you're on the show today and you are talking everything basketball with me. But if you had to give any either like little words of wisdom or words of advice for anyone that's either watching, a fan, an athlete, a coach, what would you give in regards to March Madness and how this is going to end?
I would say if you are watching and you're kind of new to it, take in the Final Four. This is what it's kind of all about. You've got 4 really basketball power tradition schools, and there's going to be a lot of, pomp and circumstance that come around it. And if you want to have a rooting interest, there's not a better one than to root for Coach K and send him off with a title. So
exactly. Way to go, Ramesh, on that. I want to thank you for being on today's show. And as always, having you here to spend an hour with me chatting on whatever our topic is. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here. I enjoy the time that we get. So
yes.
Look forward to the next one.
Likewise. Thank you. And for all of you guys that are tuning in right now, thank you guys for watching the show with us. And better yet, thank you for sharing it. The more you share it, the more we get to support our collegiate basketball teams, either men or women. And that's what it's about, to spread the love, spread the support, and be there for one another that are trying to get out there and fulfill their dream. Love it. So remember to follow us on social media, on Facebook, and remember to tune in every Tuesday on a Tuesday with your host, Mari B. Until next time.